She graduated from Weber High School and then went on to earn a bachelor's degree in education from Brigham Young University and a master's degree also in education from Utah State University. For the past 16 years, she has stood beside her husband, Brent Taylor, as he served on the North Ogden City Council and then as mayor of North Ogden City and as an officer of the Utah Army National Guard. Brent and Jennie are the parents of 7 young children ranging in the ages of 1.5 to 13 years old. Last November, while Brent was deployed to the Middle East for the 4th time, he was tragically killed in action near Kabul, Afghanistan. In the 8 months since his death, Jennie has felt an unexpected but sacred obligation to speak out about the great principles for which her husband and so many others have laid down their lives. Jennie has been known to say that we best honor those who have given their lives for us by making something of honor out of the lives that they gave to us. She says it's her greatest honor to be with us here tonight and to share with us a few thoughts and experiences of hers as we prepare to celebrate the independence of our great nation. I'm not sure if it's her great honor, it's our great honor. Please join me in welcoming Jennie Taylor.
Thank you for the invitation to be here tonight and to be, to be part of such an amazing event like that marching band and this choir and everything has just been so moving and so powerful. And Davis High is known throughout the state of Utah and beyond for its great excellence. I know that because when I was a rookie teacher, I was teaching history and government and psychology classes, and in my first year of teaching, I was given the AP class, which we probably don't give the rookie teacher because that's not fair to those poor smart kids. But I was directed by my colleagues down in Spanish Fork of the Nebo School District to come straight to Davis High in the summer, where I could be tutored and trained by your wonderful and gifted instructors and educators. So to be in this room, I can feel that excellence, to see your wonderful community members that are honored tonight, the fact that you gathered tonight in order to honor unsung heroes, in order to honor members of our military, to stand and honor our first responders who keep us safe every day at home. That is a wonderful community and something I'm just so grateful to be a part of tonight. I've got so many thoughts in my mind and my heart, and I pray to the good Lord that He will help me somehow translate those into words that can then perhaps touch your heart as we do prepare for this most sacred week in celebrating the birth and the independence of our great nation. As was just said in the introduction, I am the wife and widow of U.S. Army Major Brent Taylor. But my feelings of patriotism were not born the day my husband died. I vividly remember learning American history as part of the school curriculum when I was in 5th grade. I was in a class in Mockingbird Elementary School. That was during Operation Desert Shield and Desert Storm, and I can still picture the small but fat classroom TV on which we watched the coverage of the Persian Gulf War. The radio frequently played songs like "I'm Proud to Be an American," and one that maybe some of you remember where a bunch of famous people, movie stars and celebrities got together and sang, "Stand tall, stand proud." Do you remember it? Voices that care are crying out loud. I still remember that. I was such a young child, but those feelings were real, and there truly did seem to be pride in every American heart. And even as a young girl, I had feelings of reverence and respect for all the men and women throughout time who had given their all so that we could be free. My 5th grade teacher, Mr. Walsh, would talk to us about the American dream and the responsibilities that accompany that dream and the many rights and privileges we enjoy in this country. That lesson hit home for those of us 10-year-olds in that classroom, because one of our classmates was a young boy named Abdullah. He and his family had recently come to the United States from Afghanistan, seeking peace and political asylum from the Soviet-Afghan war. His family had a deep appreciation for that American dream and for the promise that all men are created equal and divinely endowed with the inalienable rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The seeds of patriotism truly were planted in my heart from a very young age. The same is true of my dear husband. He begins his personal military journal with the words, quote, "I always wanted to be a soldier. I loved history and I loved to read. I spent untold hours as a child reading about great military heroes from the past, and I used my strong imagination to see myself campaigning by their side. I read and looked up to men like George Washington, Douglas MacArthur, Alexander Hamilton, and scriptural war heroes as well. I also loved the great military heroes from fiction and was inspired by the nobility that they showed. I grew up with my greatest heroes coming from the warrior ranks. I was inspired by their honor, their bravery, and their courage. I wanted to be like them. I wanted to fight for my country and fight for what was right. I wanted to show courage when other men would show fear. And I wanted to be a leader of men and to earn their trust and respect. I wanted to be a soldier." Close quote. I've often joked that I thought I was the most patriotic person I knew until I met Brent. While we were both students at BYU, we were set up on a blind date by a mutual friend who thought we would be a perfect match. The first date was an absolute disaster, but fortunately, we ended up giving each other a second chance. It didn't take long from there to know that we wanted to share our dreams together. We were married in the fall of 2003, and Brent shipped out to basic training in January of 2004. He finished boot camp at Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, and then completed his advanced individual training at Fort Huachuca, Arizona. After spending 10 of our first 13 months of marriage living apart, Brent returned home, where we lived in Utah County. I continued teaching history, psychology, and government classes at Spanish Fork High School, and Brent became Cadet Taylor as he started with the ROTC program at BYU. We bought a modest townhome, welcomed our first baby into the world, and our dreams seemed to be right on track. By the time Brent graduated college and was commissioned as an officer in the United States Army, the paperwork for his first deployment was well underway. We moved from Orem to North Ogden so that I could be closer to family while Brent would be away on his deployment. He left in May of 2007, just 3 months after baby number 2 was born. Brent was a dedicated soldier and genuinely loved his time serving in Mosul, Iraq. Toward the end of that 12-month deployment, he called me and let me know that the Army was short-handed over there, and together we decided it was right for him to stay and fill a critical position in Baghdad. He ended up completing 2 consecutive deployments and had been on active duty orders for the better part of 2 years by the time he returned home. While Brent had been in Iraq, I had seen some beautiful, large metal yellow ribbons on display at the North Ogden City Parks, put up in support of our troops. I loved the idea of having a giant yellow ribbon in the yard to welcome my sweetheart home. I called the city office and asked if there was any way I could borrow one of those yellow ribbons. The city obliged, and we put up the ribbon with a giant welcome home sign. Once Brent was home, he enrolled in a master's program at the University of Utah, went into business with my brother, and we bought a house, not even a full mile away from my childhood home in North Ogden. I gave birth to our 3rd baby, Alex, just days after Brent first mentioned the idea of running for city council. Our lives were full and busy, and at times overwhelming, but our lives were blessed, and our lives were good. We were enjoying being back together as a family, and it seemed we were back to chasing the American dream in a wide variety of ways. Our neighbors across the street were a great family with the last name of Barbosa. Originally from Mexico, Norberto and Aurora Barbosa had come to California in 1984, seeking a better life for their 5 children. And much like Abdullah from my 5th grade class, their family was attracted by the promise of the pursuit of the American dream. After 30-plus years of raising their children and working hard in the community of Glendale, California, Norberto and Aurora moved to North Ogden to retire in 2007. Shortly after that, one of their sons, Pete, felt a strong desire to join the United States Marine Corps, which he did. He deployed to Afghanistan shortly after finishing his initial training courses with the Marines. He arrived in Afghanistan in May of 2009 and was killed by a roadside bomb just 2 months later, on July 11th, 2009, almost exactly 10 years ago. Brent and I first learned of Pete's death as soon as we got home from the hospital with baby Alex. I walked outside for some fresh air and saw Aurora headed to the mailbox. Her adult daughter from California was in town with her, and neither of them looked well. I approached to say hello, and as I got closer, I could tell both women were very sorrowful. Aurora looked at me, and she said, "Jenny, they killed my son." The very day before our precious son Alex was born, Aurora's precious son Pete had been called upon to lay down his life for the very freedom that had drawn his parents to bring him to this country. Our entire neighborhood was heartbroken for the Barbosas. Oh, how we wished we could express our grief and our gratitude and our love and our support. We contacted the city and once again asked if we could borrow the giant metal yellow ribbon. Well, this time it wasn't quite the same happy homecoming that was when I first made such a call. One man in our neighborhood had the wonderful idea to hold a community memorial service at the local park and to plant a tree there in Pete's honor. Since Pete's home of record was still California, and since that's where most of the Barbosa family and longtime friends still live, Pete was buried in Glendale. We wanted as a neighborhood to give his Utah family members a closer place to go and remember him. And so next to the tree that was planted, a beautiful plaque was placed. None of us in that neighborhood actually had ever met Pete. We knew his parents, and we knew his brother Rodrigo, whose family also lives in that neighborhood. But we had never personally known Pete. We never knew Pete as a little boy, or as a school classmate, or as a caring son or a fun-loving uncle. We didn't know Pete personally, but we all respected him as Lance Corporal Pedro Barbosa, the beloved son of our dear friends and neighbors. And we all revered his ultimate sacrifice as a fallen Marine. When we borrowed the yellow ribbon from the city, we had planned to leave it there for a short time and figured that in time the family would want it removed from their front yard. We were wrong. The Barbosas chose to keep the ribbon, and it stayed in their front yard with a gold star banner hung proudly in the living room window. Brent and I moved our family out of that neighborhood 5 years ago, and whenever we visit the Barbosas, we still see the yellow ribbon, kept in immaculate shape and protected from the elements of the year-round Utah weather by Pete's caring father, Norberto. Aurora would invite us over for birthdays and holidays, and on Veterans Day, she would prepare a special meal for our family. And our two families truly have become joined as one. We love visiting our friends with the yellow ribbon, and we love seeing it as a constant reminder of the touching homecoming that never quite happened that we all wished it had. Brent deployed to Afghanistan for the first time in 2011, a quick 9 months after we welcomed baby number 4 into our home. Though he had left for military service several times before, he wrote in his journal about how heart-wrenching it was to leave. It never got any easier on any of the rest of us either. While Brent was gone, the Barbosas regularly checked in on us, and I could feel Aurora's hardened and worry in her voice every time she asked me how Brent was doing over there. When he returned home safely in the fall of 2012, we all breathed a sigh of relief. Brent served his first term on the city council and finished up his master's degree, with his graduation ceremony being held when our fifth baby, little Eleanor, was only 5 days old. By the time Brent left for his fourth deployment to the Middle East, we had added babies number 6 and 7 to our family. And I was definitely feeling inadequate and overwhelmed. The Barbosas continued to check on us and regularly offered to help watch our littlest kids so I could have some quality time to spend with our older ones. One of our great shared family traditions with the Barbosas centers around Halloween costumes. Aurora is a gifted seamstress and knows exactly how to make a little girl's princess wishes come true. Starting just months after Pete died, she has sewn an exquisite costume for our oldest daughter, Winnie, every single year. Last fall, on Halloween of 2018, we kept up our annual tradition of stopping by the Barbosas' house in costumes, and once again we saw their beautiful yellow ribbon, and then we went on our way to continue the trick-or-treating fun. 2 days later, my mom and my mother-in-law convinced me to take a break from the kids and join my college roommates for a quick overnight getaway to celebrate 20 years since the time we all met randomly as freshman roommates at BYU. We had a great time. We laughed, we cried, we caught up, we reminisced, and I spent most of the time telling them repeatedly how glad I was that this deployment was almost over, because I really wasn't sure I could last without Brent much longer. That was the night of November 2nd. The next morning, on Saturday, November 3rd, our world turned upside down. My mom called me in Provo. She was at my house with the kids and let me know that 2 Army officers were on our doorstep in full dress uniform. They had a message to relay to me, and that message could only be relayed to me, and only in person. After being an Army wife for 15 years, I knew full well what a personal visit from 2 officers in uniform can only mean one thing. I asked one of my college roommates to drive me to the Utah National Guard headquarters building in Draper, giving her only a very brief reason. Brent might be dead, I said, and I need a ride. We drove to Draper, where I received confirmation that Brent had indeed been killed in action in Afghanistan. After spending what felt like hours going over paperwork and logistics in the conference room in Draper, my casualty notification officers and I drove north to my home to inform my 7 children of their father's death. The news of Brent's death rang out like the shot heard around the world in my small hometown in North Ogden, where Brent had been serving as mayor prior to his taking a leave of absence for his deployment. Before I knew it, my living room was filled with loving and concerned family members, friends, and neighbors. Impromptu memorials and flags were set up throughout the city, and yellow ribbons were being tied to fences and trees all over town. It wasn't long before I looked out the window of my own living room and saw a truck with a trailer backing up into the front yard. Loaded on the trailer was the Barbosas' giant yellow willow ribbon, now finding its new home in front of my home. In an instant, the past decade of my entire world came full circle. My shock and heartache and grief and despair over knowing that my husband's blood was among the very freshest blood to be spilled for the freedoms of this great country was only compounded when I realized that my shock and heartache and grief and despair were nothing new to a nation that had lost thousands upon thousands of lives and volumes of precious and sacred blood. That you and I and our children and our neighbors and our friends and even those with whom we don't even get along can all enjoy those precious, sacred freedoms. As heavy as my personal grief weighed upon my shoulder, and as high as the price of freedom felt to my own broken heart, I knew in that moment that I alone, Brent alone, had not solely borne the weight of those freedoms. Within 48 hours, I was boarding an airplane with my 2 oldest sons and my husband's parents on our way to Dover Air Base in Delaware to witness the arrival of Brent's remains back onto American soil. It was a dignified and well-orchestrated event. The soldiers who were charged with carrying the flag-draped casket from the international aircraft over to the vehicle that would transfer Brent's body to the military's mortuary affairs were precise in their every move. The Chief of Staff of the United States Army, the Chief of the National Guard Bureau, the Undersecretary of the Department of the Army, the Adjutant General of the Utah National Guard, all were standing at attention, as if made of stone, as they saluted their fallen brother in arms. It was the middle of the night, and a heavy fog hung in the middle of the air. The sun never shone for a moment in the duration of that trip. I can picture it all vividly now, as if I'm watching a stirring motion picture on a giant silver screen. And then the door to the military vehicle closed, and Brent's remains were turned over to the Department of Mortuary Affairs and the morticians who would professionally and respectfully prepare his battle-worn body for burial. A little more than a week later, all 7 of my children joined me on yet another tarmac. This time, the sun shone brightly, and the sky was a vibrant shade of blue. A faint rainbow could even be seen in the distance. My children and I all wore some element of yellow, including small yellow ribbons pinned to the lapels of my young boys' suits, as we stood together and welcomed home our hero. This time we were invited to approach Brent's flag-draped casket, which we did with an air of intense soberness. In my mind's eye, I can still see my youngest children standing in the sun and looking at that flag with no real comprehension of what was contained inside that silver box. In my mind's eye, I can still see Governor Herbert looking on with dignity and respect as the Commander-in-Chief of the Utah National Guard. In my mind's eye, I can still see the Adjutant General of the Utah National Guard, Major General Jefferson Burton, who knows all too well that Brent is neither the first nor the last to fall in defense of liberty and justice for all, and for the pursuit of that American dream. In my mind's eye, I can see dozens of fellow soldiers who stood by, who themselves have left their families for a time to deploy to distant lands to defend the American way of life, and to stand up for human freedom everywhere. In my mind's eye, I can still see family members and friends also watching Brent's casket be transferred from the aircraft to the hearse. Loved ones who remember Brent as a young boy, as a dedicated student, as a promising young man. In my mind's eye, I can still see city staff and fellow North Ogden residents who looked to Brent not only for leadership in his current role as mayor, but who hoped to see him fulfill future duties in other positions of leadership. In my mind's eye, I can still see myself standing straight and standing tall, while still bowing my head in deep reverence and grief, with great pride for my husband, for the service he rendered, as I wore a yellow sweater in honor of my sweetheart, whose deep love for me and our children was proven in the very moment that he literally gave his life for us. And in my mind's eye, I can see the father and mother and sister and brother and niece and nephew of Lance Corporal Pedro Barbosa,